Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast, the aptly named football podcast. We will get around to renaming it at some point, probably in the new season, I imagine. Anyway, we're all here. We're eager to talk about last week's games, this week's games, barring the fact there's an international break coming, and the football news. So if you're watching along, or if you're listening along, wherever you're getting your podcasts these days, do subscribe. It's a big thing. It shows us how much you love us, and we really, really, really do appreciate it. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
What the lady says is technically right. And at this point in time, I've got to hand over to the man that literally just muted himself, Paul Williams, to tell you why these lovely faces, or voices if you're an audio listener, are here right now.
So there is method in the madness on the muting myself. It's so we don't get reverb through the recording, you see. Always thinking. But welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to another weekly instalment of your football fix from the CookieCast network. That's correct. It is the football podcast. And I'd give it week, whatever it is, in the similar way that we do for the NFL podcast, but with the amount of international breaks that keep getting taken by football teams, who knows what week we're on of the season. It's a week in November. Let's just put it like that. We'll go with
the amount of games that my team have lost, it could be any fucking week right now. They're all the same, so whatever. Crack on.
Now, is that a spoiler alert for later on in the podcast? Wait and see. Let's find out together, shall we?
Oh. Tough sledding.
Tough sledding. Wow.
Shall we open up with last week's games or this week's games, depending on how you're looking at it?
I mean, we can at moment of recording, one game is still in play. But
I think I'll be okay to get us to that point because I've got some comments about the second Middlesbrough game of the week. Don't you worry.
I can't imagine what you would have to say about the Middlesbrough game. It went swimmingly.
Yeah, if only they were doing swimming.
So you want to know. I know what you want to know. You want to know what happened in all them there games. Well, 6 predicted games. First of the predicted games, QPR versus Nottingham Forest. Matt, anything to say about this game?
So it was a Friday night on Sky, and it was quite an even game, quite a decent game to watch, and it turned out it was a 1-1 draw. We had Lyndon Dykes scored for QPR on some. Yeah, I've said it over and over again on the podcast. Some dodgy defending. I think that's the one kind of weak point with Forest at the moment. In terms of the kind of the wing backs are more attacking than defensive. And then what is becoming a bit of a Forest special at the moment is injury time winners or injury time equalisers. And apparently the Ginger Pirlo, as he's known as, much to my horror, Jack Colbeck with a hefty deflection stuck in the equaliser. So yeah, a decent trip to London for Forest.
So that'll be 4 points then, because we all definitely picked Jack Colback, the goal machine, to score. I have no doubt.
I was convinced when you give him the introduction, you were going to say the ginger Erlo then.
You see, Paul, you joke. But of the four of us, one of us stands out as a man who can pick not only a score but a goal scorer. That man is amongst us, and his name is Paul. Paul, you. It wasn't you, I'm afraid. A 1-0 and an incorrect goal scorer is not going to get you to the dance.
Was that close?
Stuart Woodmansey, on the other hand, the man has a gift, ladies and gentlemen, and that gift is not only correctly predicting the score for 2 points, he'll also have a little goal scorer action for a 3-pointer. I did double check on this one, Matt. Just I was making sure my spelling was correct, because I thought, has he got the goal scorer there? No, he did not have the goal scorer, and no to the points, no to the score. So a no pointer for Matt. Again, I had to check the goal scorer that I picked, because I didn't get the score, but I did get a goal scorer. Points in Mr. Cook's corner. So, I mean, let's face it, Stu is already tearing off down the field to score that goal, and we're all gassed at the halfway line. It's fine though, because now we get to talk about Stu's team. Because Hull City took on another city, the city of Coventry. Stu?
And Hull lost. Shock horror. They lost 1-0. I mean, there's always been the running joke when we've attended live games with Rich's dad of during the warm-up when they have like the second goal out, maybe they should leave it. I'm pretty sure they could have them all the way around the pitch at the moment and they still wouldn't find one. So yeah, they lost to a 9th minute header from Matt Godden, and come the end of the game, City fans in attendance were chanting McCann out, which, to be fair, can't disagree. Haven't disagreed for some time. However, the club's now in this weird stage of, is it going to get sold? What's going on? I can't see him laying out money on binning off a manager. Certainly with the old regime, anyway. Wait until the new guys come in and they can see what they make of him then.
So, I can tell you this much, with 1 goal in the game scored and nobody predicting that goal scorer, it's just down to, did anybody get close with their scores? Close? But there was points. Paul Williams thought that Coventry were going to do in the Hull boys 3-1, so there's a point there. And Matt also had Coventry sticking it in with a 2-1. So a couple of points apiece there. And that's all she wrote. That's it. No more. Middlesbrough. Yeah. There was a game, allegedly, between them and Birmingham City. Paul?
So, you know, like last week on the podcast, we covered the fact that Matt was saying, they're in the playoffs now. They've like won 3 on the spin. They must be doing really well. And I wasn't overly enthralled and stuff like that. This is the reason that I'm not enthralled, because they had a nice, on paper, fairly easy home game against Birmingham, a team that was much lower in the league than them, and yeah, they got beat 2-0 because they're a big old bag of dicks.
Not when I'm drinking, Paul, come on.
Do you happen to know who the two goal scorers were?
I do. It was the first was a goalkeeping howler by Joe Lumley, which gave a free header to Mark Roberts in the penalty area. And 3 minutes later, everyone's favourite, not Hulk, but Scott Hogan, popped up, where he just basically waltzed through the team, managed to stick one in the back of the onion bag, made the keeper look a bit foolish again. And yeah, we'll come on to this in the second Middlesbrough game of the week, as there may be a running theme of imploding within minutes of a game being played or a first goal being scored. But yeah, 2-0, all their own undoing, basically.
So it's an interesting one because everybody actually, no, that's not true. There was 2 draws and 2 wins predicted. Both the wins were predicted for Middlesbrough, so not doing well there. That's myself and you, Paul, out of the running. No goal predicted, no scorers predicted, obviously. The 2 gentlemen that picked draws didn't go well for them either, because obviously, you ain't getting points for draws, boys. Unfortunately, for the rest of us, though, there is one man, ladies and gentlemen, and that man can pick a goal scorer out of all of them, and that man is one Stuart Woodmansey. So just 1 point out of that game, but do you remember the 3 he got earlier? So halfway through the week, it looks like this. The 3 of us have got a point apiece. Stu's got more points than all of us combined with 4. So
could I have a customary bonus point? Because I did say the game would finish 2-0.
No.
You can.
Move on.
You can absolutely have a bonus point for 2-0, as long as I get one as well. Moving on swiftly. Remember how you really wanted to talk about that with the Middlesbrough game?
Yeah.
Guess what's next on the docket? Luton Town.
The Nottingham Forest game, you say? We'll just go straight to that, shall we? No? Okay.
No.
So, the Luton Town Middlesbrough game came with a small caveat on it, which I didn't even realise at the time, but it made Neil Warnock there isn't really a phrase for this, he became the manager with the most games managed in England, in English football of all time, basically.
Wow.
1,000.
So it was his, let me just get the number.
1,602.
There you go. I didn't even have to move my lips there. Yes, his 1,602nd game managed. He was joint top on the list after Saturday's game with Dario Gradi, who used to manage Crewe Alexandra, and he has now overtaken him, and he is now out on his own with 1,602. Is there any chance it can sort of stay around that number, please? That would be a bit of a bonus. Sadly, I don't think it will. I believe he will get however many games there are left in this season added to that total. But this wasn't good. First half, they went 1-0 up through youngster Josh Coburn's second goal of the season. And then, Sky flashed up a stat that said when Luton had gone behind in games, they had yet to win this season. So we're on to the second half. And in the second half, Luton got an equaliser on the 57th minute through Sonny Bradley. 5 minutes later, they were 3-1 up. The second goal was scored by Elijah Adebayo. And the third goal scored by Harry Cornick. And pretty pretty much every single one of the 3 goals was easily preventable from a Borough standpoint. They basically just shot themselves in the foot for every single goal they conceded last night. It was appallingly bad. It's very rare you just see footballers who just forget how to play football, but Borough have basically managed it twice in the space of 4 days. And
the coverage,
it wasn't pretty.
The coverage on Sky was guaranteed a loss because the Warnock loving from the moment the coverage started to the moment that the match started was just borderline grotesque. And you know, even poor Nathan, what's his face, the manager of Luton, got roped into the loving. You see the poor bugger, he was stood there going, I've really got to say nice things about the guy that I'm playing against now. And you'd have thought, come and see me after the match, I'll say loads of lovely things about him now.
Yeah, not good, not good.
So, here we go. Paul, you predicted a draw. But you did correctly pick one of the 4 goal scorers, so you get a point. You went for Adebayo, if you need to.
Did I?
You did.
Wow.
Stu.
Yes, get in.
Stu at this point in time, no points, because, you know, Stu hates the points, as we know. Matt had a 2-1 down, so it's a point in the bag there. But wait.
There's more.
There is more. Correctly predicted one of the goal scorers. 2 points for you, sir. Me and Stu park our cars in the same garage, unfortunately, because we went with the same score.
Excuse me.
And we both didn't pick the one Middlesbrough goal scorer. So, not good. Tell you what is good, though. Nottingham Forest versus Sheffield United. Matt?
Yeah, so kind of, again, 1-1 draw at the City Ground last night. Very interesting comments from both managers today, or well, after the match. The Sheffield United manager said that they dominated the game. I don't know what game he was watching. It wasn't a domination. I mean, obviously, I don't know whether his dad's like not picking up his phone at the moment or what, but old Stevie Cooper needs to put some calls into his dad because he was not happy about a lack of penalty being given to Forest, which looked really harsh, and the fact that Brennan Johnson got booked as well. It looked like a penalty to me. I know I'm biased, but I'm quick to call out people when they dive, and then he got booked for the first time in his life for shouting at the ref as well. So obviously, either Daddy's not putting the call in for him, or he's not managed to speak to him yet. But yeah, so 1-1 draw. I wrote the wrong name down. So a goal for Gibbs White for Sheffield United, set up by Billy Sharp, Forest Old Boy, and then everybody's favourite Forest striker, Lewis Grabban, came on and scored the equaliser, assisted by Brennan Johnson. It was quite an entertaining game to watch, to be fair, and probably a draw was fair, contrary to what Mr. Jankovic said.
Jukanovic, Slavica.
Hands up if you predicted Lewis Grabban to score a goal.
No.
Excuse me.
Me not.
Yeah, so here's an interesting little one. Paul, you did not get the score, but you did predict Grabban to score. Stu did not get the score, did predict Grabban to score. See a pattern here. Matt, points for the score because you did go with a Desmond. Did not predict Grabban to score.
I predicted him for Friday, didn't I?
And then there's this guy at the bottom that correctly predicted the score and put Graham to score, so that was 3 points. Okay, so the game that's just finished. West Bromwich Albion versus Hull City. Now, it literally just finished, and I was writing up the scores, and I was watching it with a eagle eye out the corner, and I was like, come on. So, Stu, final score in this game?
For the second game in a row, Hull City lost by 1-0. So West Bromwich Albion 1, Hull City 0. The goal was scored in the 69th minute by Colin Grant. And interestingly, just for the randomness of it, West Brom also had 69% possession. So multiple 69s going on in that match. And, for the amount of injuries that happened, maybe they'd have been better off doing that. However, we did fare better than Tottenham against Man United last weekend because we scored. We didn't score, but we had one shot on target, so shove that spuds. But yeah, it was a really bitty game. There was no real kind of flow to it. It was very stop-start. When there's a good portion of injury time at the end of the first half that it's not exactly been stellar. I think I might be able to actually get the details now, but there was a lot of substitutions as well before half-time due to injury. So yeah, it just wasn't a lot of fun to watch. I suppose if we're going to say anything positive, at least it wasn't a cricket score, so it could well have been. I think the form going into it and the positioning in the table beforehand probably spelled a bit more destruction than the one goal, but yeah, it's still 0 points. It's now City have slipped to second bottom as well. Barnsley got a win tonight, so that puts them above Hull, and slight spoiler, that's our next game as well, so we'll get to that bit shortly.
Indeed. Look at it this way, if it's any that word, at least it wasn't what Paul predicted, because Paul had him down for a 6-0 pasting. 6-0, Paul, does actually get you a point. Now, I can only give you 1 point for a goal scorer, even though you did predict him to score 3 times. But point's a point, isn't it? So,
I could literally not have done better there.
2 points for you, sir. Stu, you put a 3-0, so there's points there. You also predicted Grant to score. More points for you, sir. Matt followed in your shoes with another 3-0. 1 point there, and of the 3 goal scorers, Grant was one of them. I didn't predict Grant, which now I look back and think that was stupid. Obviously, I did put 1-0 down for West Brom. So just the 2 points there. Do you know what? We love these random scores. Paul, you ended the week on 5 points. Now, the way things have been going recently, that is an impressive score.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Impressive. Not quite as good as the 3 people that ended the week on 7 points apiece. I mean, it would need a tiebreaker if it wasn't just absolutely monstrous in the points division.
I'll tell you what then. Right, so here's your tiebreaker then, lads. So to get the win for this week, you each now get to pick how many minutes will be between the first and last goal that Middlesbrough conceded on Saturday against West Brom.
6.
I think you've been a bit generous there, Andrew.
First and the last one.
Write it down.
I'm going to say 72 minutes.
Yeah, that's probably not. Well, actually, no, because there is a stat. There is a stat that I'll need to bring up in a little while, which may make you want to reconsider that stat.
But we do need to go back and revisit the fact that you predicted 6-0 and didn't get any of the goal scorers.
No, I got one.
Got one.
Oh, did you get one?
Yeah.
All right, fair
He
enough.
put
Then.
Grant down 3 times.
Oh, okay.
So, you know,
Come on, man, don't be doing me dirty on that one.
cover the bases and all.
Taking the goal scorers for granted, he might have said.
Get out!
This guy.
Get out!
This guy.
So the reason why you might want to reconsider your pick, Matt, is that the fact that this season Middlesbrough conceded 18 goals in the league. 16 of those 18 goals have come in the second half of games.
Nah.
3 of them were within a 5-minute spell in the last match as well, weren't they? So.
Oh,
Yeah,
sticks the boot in.
And 2 of them were in a 3-minute spell the game before. What's your point? It's still all in the second fucking half.
Yeah, but you asked for the amount of minutes between the goals, so it doesn't matter the second half. What matters is the time in between.
Yeah,
So.
but if it's in the second half, the maximum amount of time between the first and last goals can be 45 minutes.
So Matt said 72.
Yes.
Andy said 6. I'm going to be a twat and say 7.
You absolute bell piece.
Paul, would you like to have a guess for funsies?
0.
Oh, he's going with a 1-0 then. Or a 0-0.
Well, as we've already previewed next week's games, shall we preview next week's games? Speaking of next week's games, I am reliably informed by these lovely gentlemen here with me today and the Tinterweb that there are only 3 games this week. I imagine there's some kind of international shenanigans going on. Internationally. International Men of Mystery, possibly. Our first game, as predicted by Stu, is the most Yorkshire team in the world, Barnsley, taking on Hull City. Stu, you will predict last, as Paul is taking care of what can only be described as definitely not, the super cold or the super flu or any of those things. Matt, why don't you furnish me with some scores for this game?
I've gone for a very tense 1-1 draw.
1-1. Who's scoring them their goals?
Barnsley's going to be scored by Woodrow.
Okay.
And I'm cracking out one of one of my favourites, Honeyman.
Yay. Now I've been a little all over the shop with predictions, but it doesn't sit right with me to just keep predicting the home teams to get beat. So I thought, you know what, this week's the week. Barnsley 0, Hull 1, and I rolled out one of my 2 favourite Hull goal scoring machines, Lewis Potter. Paul.
Yeah, I'm finished harvesting my nose candies. I will go for 2-2.
Desmond, nice. Goal scorers?
I'll have Styles, and I've got like a sort of an embarrassment of riches, because the goal scorers from Barnsley's game tonight have both got fantastic surnames. I've got to choose between Adebayo and Leia Iseka, and I think I'll go for Adebayo. Unless they just call him Attaboy Joe.
Definitely in Barnsley.
Oh, absolutely.
Hull City scorers?
Well, When was the last time Richie Smallwood got on the score sheet? Does he, or does he not really tend to get far enough past the halfway line for that?
I mean, it'd have to be from a corner, off, glancing off his left bollock or something. It's not going to be pretty if he scores.
Well, this is the weekend for bollocks, if you will. So yes, I'd like to go for Richie Smallwood, and in an even more unlikely goal scoring source, I'd like to go for Tom Eaves, please.
Okay. Stu, what's the real deal with this game? What's really going to happen?
You're all insane. Hull are going to lose again because Barnsley are kind of one of the bogey teams as well. I think in recent memory, I only remember going, and I think I seem to recall one victory on the road at Oakwell. So I'm going to go for Barnsley 2, Hull 0.
2-0. Goal scorers.
I'm going to borrow one from Matt in Woodrow, and I will go for Cole for the second.
Okie dokie. Nottingham Forest are taking on Preston North End, the PNE, as their website reliably informed me earlier. Matt will pick last, and I'll tell you who's going to pick first. It's this guy. So, like I was saying, I don't like to keep predicting home teams to get a loss after loss after loss. Forest seem to be at the moment. Who knows about Preston? I couldn't really find a definitive goal scorer, so I had to go with a 1-1 just to prove Paul wrong. And by finding a goal scorer, I meant previously in the book. I went with a 1-1 and I did a little bit of research. So he's got his eye in now, let's face it. He's going to be getting them goals. He's got to get that 60. So Lewis Grabban to score. And a man dear to my heart personally, I've gone with Thomas to score for Preston North End. Paul!
So, Preston pulled a bit of a coupon buster tonight because they beat previously unbeaten Bournemouth at Bournemouth. So, I reckon they'll resort to type on Saturday though, so I'll go for a 1-0 Forest win.
Goal scorer?
Johnson.
Okay. Stu?
I have also gone with a 1-1 draw, and I will also get on board with Johnson. And for Preston, I've gone for Maguire.
Go on, Matt. Tell us the real deal. What's really going to happen?
I've gone back to my old faithful, kind of in terms of predictions for Forest. I've gone for 2-1 home win. I think we've had a kind of run of kind of settling draws after a heavy defeat. So hopefully kind of get back on it this weekend. So 2-1, and I'm going to keep on predicting him till he scores. Joe Lolly probably won't even play this weekend, so that'll kind of shaft that one. And everybody's favourite 60 to 90 goal this season striker, Lewis Grabban. There's the other one. And for the Preston goal, Reese, R-I-I-S. I think he's on loan from Liverpool, I think.
Okay then. Now then, well, we find ourselves in a difficult predicament here. And that difficult predicament is the restraints that we have around our technological podcasting. So, while you lovely people enjoy some fantastic adverts, we will get the makeup department in, get a little touch up done, and be back with you momentarily for not only this week's, it's the big game, let's face it, but we'll be talking this week in football. All the football news coming your way in a moment. We shall be right back.
Recording in progress.
And there we go. Amazing products, absolutely amazing products. If you can get in on some of that product buying action, get a little kickback to the podcast, and currently goes towards the new podcast studio, which is coming along slowly. Anyway, West Bromwich Albion take on Middlesbrough. Paul, we don't care what you think about this until the last pick. Stu, I'm very interested to find out what you think is going to happen in this game.
I'm sorry, Paul. West Brom 2, Middlesbrough 0. And I will go with Grant to carry on his goal scoring form, and 1 for Mr. Robinson.
Matt?
Also gone for 2-0. I've gone Hugel and Mowat. The old boy action.
Don't fret, Paul. I've still got faith. 0-1. Crooks. You heard it here first.
Points being frittered away there.
Go on then, Paul.
So this is affectionately the Williams-Brinton derby, as West Brom is where she was born, or Bearwood as it is apparently. It's a strange on this one because we always seem to do well at the Hawthorns. So I'll go with 0-0.
Did you say Bearwood there? Just there.
Bearwood, apparently. That is the village where she originated.
I thought you said some weird kind of black country phrase for having a child or something like that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that happened way before that point.
No, but now you've said it, I'm basically I'm just going to use that phrase from now until eternity. So, yeah.
Where's such and such? Oh, Bearwood over the weekend. What? Yeah, little boy. What?
Yeah, this game just screams Neil Warnock, shithouse, 0-0, lock it up. Just try and keep it as tight as he can game. Watch him concede within 60 seconds.
Well, there we go. As I mentioned previously, there's just 3 games this week, and that was the third of 3 games. So that is us all predicted up. Takes us swiftly to this week in football, or is it last week or next? It's football news section, that's what it is. What's been going on in the football news? And I'm going to start by saying I'm hoping that nobody's died in the last week.
Someone will have died.
I mean, yeah, but we were getting a bit like Doom and Gloom podcast. Maybe that should have been the name for it, the Doom and Gloom podcast.
Well, until Hull win again, I think it already is the Doom and Gloom podcast, isn't it? Was that the amount of points they've got over the last couple of games there, Stu?
No, it was half the amount of goals that we put past Middlesbrough the other week.
Oh, he's done him, ladies and gents. He's only gone and done him.
Well, since we were last here last week, I suppose the biggest news is that Spurs sacked. Oh no, had he been sacked by the time we'd recorded last week?
No, it was very close to. I think we even alluded to it on the podcast. That he was on borrowed time.
Yeah.
It was the morning after.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, because it was Saturday, wasn't it?
It was a bit of like a loser leaves town match, wasn't it? If whoever lost was like given their papers and leave the company and re-emerge.
Indeed. So yes, Nuno Espirito Santo has been removed from his position as manager of Spurs and replaced with Antonio Conte, ex-Chelsea and Italy and Juventus and Inter Milan, etc., manager.
It's alright, because I'm reliably informed in 3 months' time he's going to turn up on AEW, so it's fine. Huh? Is that not how it works these days? I thought everybody just went to AEW.
Well, they do like to sign up people, but who knows? But there's a lot of people who think that's probably going to be another disastrous appointment for Spurs because he doesn't play the sort of football that their fans will enjoy, etc. But he's won stuff, so maybe that's something that Spurs aren't used to as well. So maybe that's why it won't work.
I mean, yeah, but the whole team setup of Spurs will soon surely drill that out of Conte. It's not going to be.
Well, it's when he turns up to training on the first day and he's like, no one told me that Eric Dyer would still be here when I took the job.
Terms of, when they were hammering out those terms and conditions in London, it was like, I want him gone, and I want him gone as well.
I wonder if he'll go for the same approach with Dele Alli as Mourinho did. So apparently he went up to him and was like, I think he introduced himself and was like, you must be Dele Alli's brother. And he was like, what? I don't have a brother. He was like, well, you're certainly not Dele Alli, are you? He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, because you've been fucking shit for the last 6 months or something like that. But yeah, so obviously there's the Warnock being in charge for his record-breaking game. On a personal level, Hartlepool's manager decided that he didn't want to manage a football league team anymore, and he wanted to basically just go and get some dollar bills, So he has left. He's left to go. Dave Challoner's left to go and manage Stockport County in the division below.
But did he not play for them? Is he a club legend? I'm sure Dave Challoner rings a bell from
what? I hadn't even put 2 and 2 together there, but yes. Oh no, maybe he was Tranmere.
All right, so then
might have been Tranmere. I mean, he might have played for Stockport in the past, but yeah, they've got a bit of a
they've got a backer as well.
Sugar daddy backer and stuff like that, and he's there's rumours around the club that he's gone because he's obviously going to be getting a lot more money. I think the phrase was quadrupled his wage packet apparently, and obviously he'll be given money to spend, which no manager ever has at Hartlepool United because they haven't got 2 pennies to rub together. So yeah, bit of a disappointment because they were upwardly mobile and obviously they got back in the Football League. They still haven't lost at home in the league this season, so. Disappointing, but they start their quest for a new manager as of today. So
do they want Grant McCann?
Probably not, I don't think actually. To be fair, if he went, he wouldn't be a terrible appointment of Pools. So obviously we can't let a week go by without just having a massive chuckle at what's going on in the northeast of England in. The black and white section.
Isn't it just that they're doing what is it known as doing the Spurs now? So what Spurs did in the summer, which was basically, we want this manager. Oh no, he doesn't want to come. Oh, we want this manager. Oh no, he doesn't want to come either. All right, we'll settle on this one then. And I was going to go back to the Spuds. I felt like Santos was done a bit dirty there because they didn't invest any money in the squad. obviously it was made perfectly obvious that he was not the first choice. He wasn't the second choice. He probably wasn't even really the third choice. But at that point, it was embarrassing how many people he'd gone through. Yeah. And then Harry Kane decided that he wanted to leave because he wasn't kind of thing, and has also played absolute dog crap for this season.
For me personally, I think like Harry Kane has a big part in what's happened there, on the basis that his antics over the summer, for me, probably unsettled the team for a start. And he Nuno was always on the back foot from the off. Really, the fact that they had to issue a statement to say that, he's always been the gentleman, he'll always be welcome at the club and all this stuff. And if that was me that had just been binned off and they were been like that, I'd be like, well, which way do you want it? Either I stay or you've told me to go. I don't want. I'd be fuming at that.
I wouldn't be doing gentlemanly things to Harry Kane's boots. That's what be kind of thing.
Well, it's been one of them stories, hasn't it, with Conte arriving. Like, the idea was sort of courted like previously, and they've kind of worked to the point that they've got their man. But I think my favourite comment on all of it was the always good for a laugh Paddy Power social media account, when they pretty much written like the dialogue for the meeting. So it's like, oh, Antonio, welcome to Spurs. Look at our big, nice new stadium. Cool. So what about the squad? Oh, look at our big, nice new stadium. Did quite enjoy that one.
Jamie Carragher summed it up perfectly when he said, I don't think it's a terrible sacking. I think it's the fact that in the first place it was a terrible appointment. And it's like Matt's just said there, it's clear to see he was never the guy they wanted. They'd basically gone through, I think it was 5 different candidates, until they basically came back to him and was just like, have you still not got a job? Do you want it? I mean, you can have it if you want. No one else seems to be asked, so do you want to just see what you can do with it? The most irritating thing is the fact that he won the Manager of the Month award in August. He had them top after 3 games.
They've had 5 wins, 5 losses, so they're kind of, it's not terrible. Newcastle would give the left nut for one of those. I just think, for kind of moving on to Newcastle. I mean, they're now with, Fonseca was the first choice. Then apparently Unai Emery's kind of thing. But before Fonseca and Emery, Conte was mentioned there. There was, this guy from Ajax that's like, no thanks. And now it's Eddie Howe. And you think, right, you're going to throw money at Eddie Howe because he doesn't play football that the locals will appreciate. He doesn't want to be there, and I don't care what anybody says, because he'll say all the right things when he turns up, but he doesn't want to be there, or he'd be there by now.
Well, he's got previous for it. Well, he's got previous for it, because obviously he was at Bournemouth when they were right down in League 2. Burnley came in, took him away, and he was at Burnley for about 14, 16 months or something like that, and then just basically sort of spat his dummy out and was like, oh, I don't like living this far away from the south coast, and buggered off back to Bournemouth again. So if he doesn't like being in Greater Manchester, what's he going to do if he has to go another 150 miles
of the way?
Yeah.
The Emery thing was a bit odd though, because for it to get as far as it did, the fact that they'd actually had discussions, hadn't they, and they revealed that Emery had a buyout clause of 5.1 million for a manager's salary, which I thought was pretty hefty.
I think that's just Spain by the sounds of it, because all players have to have a buyout clause in their contract. So I think it must just be the same for anyone connected to the club that's on the playing side of things, has to have a release clause. So it might just be that they'd said it at that, thinking, no one's going to be stupid enough to come in and pay 5 million for our manager.
He has to be careful though as well, because obviously it took him seemingly a couple of days to decide that he's very well settled in Villarreal. Very well settled, not in carrier bags either. But I'll keep hammering that one out, don't you worry. Because when it all goes wrong, I mean, it's a weird sell at the moment. I wouldn't. I know it's going to involve a lot of money and wages, but I don't think I'd want to be the person going into that job.
At Newcastle?
Yeah. I can't see, unless you are, going to get, literally given the sort of the wallet to buy whoever, whenever. Well, we know that financial fair play have a say in that now.
But it's generally not. It's not the first manager, is it, that does. If you look at Chelsea, Ranieri set them up. Then Mourinho took over. At Man City, it was Mancini or perhaps not give any credit to Mark Hughes, but that kind of thing, and then it kind of passed on to them kind of thing. I think they're just going to realise very quickly that it's not. You kind of got all these fans, inverted commas, saying how, we're going to get all the best players, all the best managers, all the best people coming in because we can throw money at them, and then sooner realise that actually people there's also the fact that we don't want to play for a terrible team that looks like it genuinely. I watched them the other day, and I was like, there's apparently they've said, 2 players are untouchable. I'm like, you could get rid of the whole squad for me, and you'd be better off, because say Maximan is a great player but is really lazy, and Willock's already been dropped to the bench because I presume he's believing his own hype.
The thing is as well, if you look back at Chelsea when Abramovich came in, I think one of the main caveats of him buying it was the fact that they had Champions League football straight away to go into, so they had the caveat, or they had the sort of the carrot for players coming in, is that they were going to be going into an elite competition straight away, as well as the Premier League. Whereas I think Man City might have had even I know it's not glamorous as such, but at least they had the Europa League or the UEFA Cup, if it was still that then, when the Abu Dhabi group came in, and Newcastle have barely got Premier League football to offer to incoming players. So it's all like you say, it's all well and good having this money to spend, but if the players don't want to come, it's it's going to be a very pointless sort of fruitless exercise, isn't it? So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens when January rolls around, because I think it'd be pretty much career suicide for him to stick with. Is it Graham Jones is the interim manager at the minute?
Oh yeah.
It'd be catastrophic for him to stick with him until January, and then give him. If they end up just giving it him to the end of the season, oh good God!
No, they'll be down. No, they've got to be careful, because at the rate they're going, they could get to Christmas and have whatever points they're on now will be the amount of points they get to the New Year.
So as it stands, that they've played 10 games, lost 6 and drawn 4. They are 6 points adrift of 17th. So they just need to win 2 games just to get back on an even keel with the teams that are above them. And their next run of fixtures does not look promising. I think up to Christmas, I think someone had earmarked maybe 2 games where they potentially had the chance to get points. And one of those was against Norwich, which is pretty much a free hit for anyone in the Premier League this season. So
I don't think Newcastle is a free hit.
But this is the thing, no one's going to go through a Premier League season losing every game. And for teams like Norwich, fair enough, they're not going to be able to beat a Chelsea, as we saw the other week when they got spanked 7-0. But if they're not going to raise the game for Newcastle, who are they going to raise the game against and stuff like that? So, like you say, it's not a free as such. And
I had you're
probably right, actually.
Of watching them against Leeds at the weekend on live on Sky, and that was
that first half was bad.
Yeah, I mean, but then it's. To me, if them 2 teams is that their next game or within their next couple of games?
No, I'll have a look at who they're playing at the weekend.
That
it's
on
not
current
the next
form.
one.
That could just be an absolute toss the coin and see what happens kind of a deal. It's not, like Matt said about St. Maximin, he's the type of player that could change a game if he could be asked to actually do anything during the game. It started off with so much promise, and you'd have thought in that lineup he would be like the guy. It just seems like he can't be asked now.
He's probably just been battered out of him, the poor sod. He's probably just like, what's the point?
Next game is away at Brighton on Saturday.
That's the game that they should be looking to win, kind of thing. But
I mean, but
you
look at Brighton. They've just gone to Liverpool and got a draw.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's a strange league though. At the end of the day, and who knows?
I mean, it's all summed up by the fact they're going to buy Aaron Ramsey for however much, considering Juventus don't want him, and they're going to pay him £12 million a year. Congratulations. He'll play 2 games for you and then get injured, so crack on. That's marvellous.
Watch this space, I say.
Anything other news-based stuff?
We haven't really talked about the fact that, I mean, obviously I alluded to it slightly earlier, but things seem to be progressing with the sale of Hull City to bring it back a little closer to home. So there was a statement of exclusivity put out at the weekend, which was really particularly badly worded on the website, but essentially likened it to putting an offer in the house and saying, can you take it off the market now, please? So a Turkish group have come in and are now dealing with the potential exit of the Alams. I mean, the Alams haven't been great. It's been well documented on here as well before. Will the new people be any better? Has to go through first. So yeah, well, seemingly though, one step closer to a takeover. Exactly. Fingers crossed indeed.
Any other news? Any other business?
No, nothing for me.
There we go then. That is This Week in Football done. That is the predictions for the upcoming games done. Letting you know what's happening, or what happened with last week's games. I think we can stick a fork in this one and consider this one done. Big thank you to you gentlemen for joining me and taking these lovely people through the often choppy waters of the football world. Join us next week when we get stuck back into the predictions we've done today and predict more games and talk more football. Until then, I'm going to say bye to these guys and they're going to say bye to you. See you later, boys.
Bye.
So there you go, what do you think of that? Another one done, another week of games gone, another week of games to come, and lots of football news. Big thank you to the football crew for joining me. Big thank you to you for listening or even watching us. And whether you're listening or you're watching, do like, share, comment, and more importantly, subscribe. You can also check out our website, thecookiecast.com. It's small, but it's mighty. It's got social media links and an email link, so you can drop us a line and let us know what's on your mind. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.